Today we're going to be drawing the Fantastic Four as cookies. Now the movie just came out and promotions for it are everywhere. There's a team up in the game Marvel Rivals that I've been playing with too much recently. There's even a Little Caesars pizza. That's when you know it's real. Come along with me while we break the multiverse. There's also going to be a mysterious fifth character. See if you can guess who it is without cheating. And who would the Fantastic Four be without Mr. Fantastic himself? I do want to preface all of our discussion here today by saying that everything I know about the Fantastic Four comes from Marvel Rivals, trailers that I've seen for the new movie, and an old Fantastic Four movie I watched whenever I was way too young to understand what the heck was going on. The one thing I do remember is Mr. Fantastic having like this really weird but also very interesting power, because usually when we think of superheroes we're like, oh yeah, super strength, super speed, you know, super intelligence and all of this thing. We don't think literal rubber man. You don't think that it would be that useful, but with the way that they get creative with the moves, I know that he took a lot of inspiration from traditional superheroes, but it kind of makes me think of Hero Academia, where they have certain quirks and powers that you're like, there's no way that that's useful, and then the way that they use it is like, wow, I wouldn't have even thought of that, and it's so creative and fun. And while I was thinking about what to turn him into for his cookie form, I googled rubber candy just out of curiosity, and one of the top things that popped up was marzipan. Marzipan is basically almond flour type of thing, and it's really easy to mold into different shapes. It has pretty much the same confectionery role as fondant, except I would argue that it probably tastes a lot better, but at the end of the day it's mostly just for looks rather than flavor, so you can't really be mad at it anyway. I also looked up to see if we already had marzipan in the Cookie Run universe, and the answer is yes. Kind of. They appear as NPCs during Cookie Run Kingdom's Golden Cheese chapter. That's kind of it. And I still think that it fits him really well because of the whole idea of being able to mold himself into any shape. And he also had some similar vibes to Almond Cookie, so I was able to make some design choices that made him feel like he belonged in the Almond Cookie family. I want to talk about the new movie for a moment. At this point, the only thing I've seen are the trailers, but I really love how the promotionals and even the movie production itself is kind of going back to the roots of filmmaking. It really has this retro, old-timey feel that I appreciate. Instead of going for, you know, the bigger, newer, shinier movie, it feels like they're trying something different. I just hope that they actually do different right, and they're not just preying on everybody's nostalgia. And now it's time to meet Marzipan Cookie, or Mr. Marzipan. He is a wind smash fighter. Even though he's not as strong as some of his fellow cookies, the unique properties of his dough that allow him to twist and form himself into pretty much any shape allows for a lot of mobility and creative plays that let him outsmart the enemy. He leads the charge by giving his team openings and sharing their weaknesses with his allies. If you have any ideas for alternate movesets or artifacts, please let me know down below and I'll feature it in a future video. And who would Mr. Fantastic be without his lovely wife? Seriously, the domestic energy radiating off of these two is crazy. And like I said, I do genuinely like the direction that they're going with the new movie, but some of the characters just look so weird in some of the posters. Like there was one I saw where Invisible Woman looked like she was made of plastic. Human Torch literally looked like a randomized Sims 1 sim. I don't know, like his hair was just like way too flat, and the Thing just, I think it's the shape of his head or the way that his mouth moves or something, just looked a little bit uncanny for me. Then again, I am spoiled to the way they look like in Marvel Rivals, and I did end up leaning into those designs for a lot of these. Kind of like a little mishmash of Rivals, the new movie. I just took design aspects that I liked, which got me thinking about the outfits that they were wearing in the new trailer, and it upset me for the weirdest reason, and that's because none of them are consistent. Like, obviously you can tell they go together because they have the same color scheme and general idea, but there's just something about like how the Thing's boots are a little bit higher, how Torch and the Thing both have the white coming down the collar and down their arms, Invisible Woman only has it around her collar, and then Mr. Fantastic doesn't have a white collar at all. Little OCD inside of me is like, why can't they all be the same? Even with all of their inconsistencies, I think that the outfits look fine, and the promotional skins that they got in Rivals actually look really nice. Unfortunately, at the time that I was doing these designs, the official skins weren't out yet, so I only had the original one to go off of. Depending on how interested you guys are, I wouldn't mind doing a costume video for some of these cookies, maybe borrowing some more skins from Marvel Rivals and putting it on their cookie forms, or coming up with entirely original skins. Either way would be fun for me, just let me know what you guys would like to see. Going to the design for a little bit though, one thing I did on her that I haven't done with any design before is play around with transparency. And apparently today is the day for transparency because we use it on 2 other designs today as well. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves just yet because it's time to meet Invisible Cookie. So punny, I know. She is a water ranged support. She's able to make force fields and manipulate energy in order to protect her team. I imagine that she'd be a very hard cookie to master technically, but if you do, as the kids say, get good, then you can be an amazing support from pretty much anywhere on the field. We definitely have a lack for the need to aim in Tower of Adventures right now, and I think it would bring a really fun dynamic to the game. Third up to the plate is The Thing. Literally, The Thing. I actually really like this character. His personality makes me think of a grandpa or maybe an older brother, where they're really playful but they're also laid back. But don't you dare let his personality fool you because you do not want to be on the other end of that fist. Unless you're a freak, but we don't talk about that. I'm not a really big fan of the way that he looks or his voice in the movie, at least from what I saw from the trailers. However, I do really like the way that he's depicted in Marvel Rivals, and I think that his voice fits him very well there. The only thing is that he says, "It's clobbering time!" way too often. Like at this point, I could quote it like a meme in the exact intonation because everybody and their mom is playing him right now. And it really makes me wish that the Ultimates had some more voice line variety. Most of them only have 1, there's a few that have 2, but it still gets really repetitive. I do love the detail though in the conversations between characters if they have some kind of history together, like in the spawn room or whenever you activate a team up. But yeah, the Ultimates, they need a little bit of work. And that's a thing I'm semi-worried about if and when English dubbing ever comes to Tower of Adventures, because I know in Kingdom they have the same voice line every time they use their special skill, and I just really hope they don't follow that trend in Tower of Adventures. Like, I want at least 2 variations, but 3 or more is preferable. Because if you're using your ultimate skill all the time, that's just gonna get a little bit crazy. But enough about voice lines, let's talk about the cookie. Adapting him into Cookie Run was both easy and difficult at the same time, because in my head I can imagine how the texture would look like 3D rendered, and I don't think that that translates into the 2D drawing very well. And I actually ended up redoing the rock texture off screen. I still had fun with the texture regardless, and I definitely think it adds a lot of visual interest, because to the best of my knowledge, I don't think we have a cookie with like texture on the dough like that, and not to mention trying to work with the funky head shape and stuff. But for what it's worth, I think he turned out really nicely. But what time is it? Time to meet Clobber Rock Cookie. He is an Earth Smash support. Even though he is definitely a heavy hitter, he's also a living, walking shield. You definitely want this guy by your side, not just because he can keep you safe, but also because he can enhance whatever you're trying to do. If you want to go for a hit, he'll make sure it hits 10 times harder. In a typical raid team in Tower of Adventures, you usually only want 1 support, but I think it would be really cool if the Fantastic Four team could run run with 2 supports. Let me know if you guys have any ideas for how to implement that better. Last but not least is the Human Torch, aka Johnny. I know he might look like Fire Spirit Cookie. Actually, for a reference, I used capsaicin, that's a funky word, and Stardust Cookie of all cookies. One of the reasons I use Stardust is because Johnny makes a lot of references about being bright like a star or supernova, or sort of like these cosmic references. And I also may or may not have stolen the slightly transparent hair idea. I actually didn't know Stardust Cookie's hair was a little bit transparent until I downloaded the PNG. It's pretty interesting. And I don't necessarily want to call them bold choices, but I did try some things different with this design that I haven't done before, as completely erasing the line art in certain areas, adding transparency, or breaking some rules on the eyes. But in the end, I think all the design elements came together to make a very interesting looking cookie. Now, talking about Marvel Rivals for a little bit, I actually have been achievement hunting in that game. Some of them are easy, some of them are like, how the heck am I gonna get this? But just doing it anyways. I streamed some on Twitch, but I found that whenever I'm not streaming, it runs a lot smoother. I don't know why it took a genius to figure that one out. And I've also started playing competitive and learning more of the characters, and Human Torch is one of the ones that I've played around with some more, and I actually really enjoy playing as him. Of course, I'm no master at it, I still have a long way to go, but he just plays so different because he is a fighter, but instead of being right up in your face, he's more crowd control. And I don't know if you've noticed up until this point, but a lot of the movesets that I'm creating for them in this game is actually based off of their movesets in Marvel Rivals. Again, because that's mostly what I have to go off of, but also it just really fits their character, and I more so want to adapt them into Cookie Run rather than trying to create a whole other thing that's not even there and making it harder on myself and potentially moving away from the core of who that character is. Because that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to adapt, not remove them from the original media. Shining bright like a star is Supernova Cookie. He is a ranged fire tagger, able to spare some flames for everyone, and while he's mostly a nuisance for the little guys, I can see him bothering the big ones as well. Kinda like this little fly that keeps flying around that you can never catch and will not leave you alone. Yeah, that's Johnny. I want to have some kind of unique mechanic with his tag, maybe something like every time it fills up it triggers like a damage over time burn or something, or maybe whenever the tag expires. Let me know if you guys have any ideas for how that could work. And can I get a drum roll? Our mystery character is the Silver Surfer. Woo! While not the big bad of the movie, they were featured in the trailer and is a pretty iconic character. The only thing is, I always remember them being male. I don't know why they decided to gender bend. Maybe they needed another female character for the audience to ogle at. I don't know. At any rate, the design is very simple and nice, and the actress has a voice that's just this perfect blend of beauty and horror, which I think really embodies Silver Surfer's character, because I was googling what their abilities were and it very quickly became what their abilities are not. Of course, there's the given super speed, super strength, and then there was hyper intelligence and this cosmic awareness or something, and a whole slew of other powers that were just put under this umbrella of cosmic power, and I don't know what that is unless it's just an excuse to make this character do whatever the heck they want and be justified, and honestly, I respect it. I can also see this character coming to Marvel Rivals. My first instinct is a duelist, because Silver Surfer is insanely powerful. We're talking galaxy-shattering levels of powerful. My biggest concern is how they would tone that down to make them balanced and playable. They could also pull an Ultron and end up making them a Vanguard or a support as a way to justify them not just just exploding the entire enemy team, but we'll just have to see how that unfolds. Switching our focus to the cookie, since the design itself is very simple, I wanted to play it up with dynamic posing and maybe doing something a little interesting with the eyes, because aside from being highly reflective, the main thing that stands out to me about Silver Surfer is her really bright steel blue eyes. And on the design, I decided to add stars in them, not only for visual interest, but also to hit home the idea that this is a cosmic powered cookie. And even though the 2D art doesn't do it a whole bunch of justice, I think it would be really cool rendered in 3D with some reflective graphics. At the very least, some kind of dynamic lighting would look really cool on the silver skin, or dough, shall I say. Coming in from the infinities of space is Silver Surfer Cookie. Very original, I know. They are a dark magic fighter. Since they do have such a wide range of abilities, I didn't want to stick to the whole surfing idea too much. And on top of that, I really don't think that they would mind showing off the full range of what they can do to destroy you. And since they are so visually simple, the special effects on their abilities would go wild, if for nothing else to remind you exactly who you're dealing with. That concludes our time today, chatting and drawing about the Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer. Let me know down below what your favorite design was, what else you want to see in the future, what you think of the movie. I'll make sure to read it. On the right is a playlist of other characters that I've sent into the Cookie Run universe. On the left is a video YouTube thinks that you'll like. You all have a blessed day, keep being awesome, and I will see ya!